It is May 7th, 2024 when I'm recording this. The spring practice window is pretty much over. The spring transfer portal window is pretty much over besides some grad transfers, and some teams are getting some players in the portal right now, but most of them are done. So most SEC rosters at this point are what they will be in the fall. So in this video, I'm going to rank all 16 SEC head coaches, 16 instead of 14 because of Texas and Oklahoma. I'm going to rank those, and my criteria is what they have done and how excited I would be as a fan if that coach was my favorite team's coach. And if you're just now finding out about this channel, follow us on TikTok at 3andOutCFB and on Twitter at 3andOut_CFB. We post daily over there and are heating up since the season is getting closer, even though it still feels so far away. So let's get this ranking started. At number 16, I have Jeff Lebby, new Mississippi State head coach, and nothing against Lebby. I think he's going to be really good for Mississippi State and pretty exciting this year. But he's never been a head coach before, so I really don't know what to expect from him. So I just decided to have him at the very end. Didn't really rank him based on, not to be unfair to him. So he was the offensive coordinator at UCF under now Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel. He was the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin, and most recently the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. So he's had a lot of really good experience in really tough situations in the SEC and at Oklahoma. But I decided to leave him at number 16, and moving on to 15, I have Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. Clark Lee is going into his fourth year at Vanderbilt, and last year was pretty rough. 2-10, did not win an SEC game. The year before, they showed some promise, and they went 5-7, which is pretty dang good for Vanderbilt. If you get a bowl game at Vanderbilt, it's a pretty good season, like James Franklin did, and that's why he was given that Penn State job because of how well he did in the early 2010s. But Clark Lee has had 3 seasons there. He's gone 9-27 total with only 3 SEC wins total. I mean, 2 years of 0 SEC wins, and man, they are going through some things, some reconstructions of the field. So this year they'll have like a missing piece of their whole stadium. So be interesting to watch. And Vanderbilt really has some good transfer portal players coming in. They have the new quarterback from New Mexico State, Diego Pavia, who had a really good season last year for New Mexico State. 26 touchdowns, I think only 9 interceptions or something like that. But really good, and a really good piece for Vanderbilt. They did lose a lot of playmakers, but that's okay. Maybe there's some hope for Vanderbilt in 2024. Number 14, I have Billy Napier at Florida. And it kind of pains me to put him this low because I was such a big Napier fan at Louisiana. And then when he got hired at Florida, I was really confident and excited in the hire. And Florida went through some bad coaches there for a little while, but I was really excited about Napier going 33-4 his last 3 seasons as a Louisiana Ragin' Cajun. And he gets over here and has tons of talent in that Florida team 2 years ago with Anthony Richardson. And they go 6-6, lose the bowl game to Oregon State. And last year, not as much talent, but still a pretty talented team. And they go 5-7 after starting off 5-2, I want to say. I think they were 5-2 playing against Georgia and lost a final 5 games of the season, going 5-7, didn't make a bowl game, and had plenty of opportunities to win and make a bowl game. The Missouri game strikes me the most when they had a 4th and 16 to stop them, and they didn't. The Florida State game, when Florida State was missing Jordan Travis, they couldn't get it done at the Swamp, and they were up 12-0 at one point. The thing that worries me the most is that there's like penalties, a ton of special teams mistakes, and that's not like Billy Napier's teams in the past at all. So that's what kind of strikes me and scares me for the future. They have DJ Lagway, who is kind of their main building block and future piece after Graham Mertz leaves. The Billy Napier's future is all in 2024. At number 13, I have Sam Pittman of the Arkansas Razorbacks, and talk about painful. I probably shouldn't say this. I am an Arkansas Razorback fanatic. I'm from Arkansas, so Sam Pittman is my guy. In fact, I just met him like a month ago at the horse races, but he has struggled. And I love him as a person, but that really does not matter on the field. It's a business, obviously, and he has not been getting it done the last 2 years. In 2020, he started and had not a great season, but we did make a bowl game in the COVID year after still going under 500, but that was the COVID year. A crazy, crazy year, and it still affects the game today, 4 years later. But that year was special because we had our first SEC wins in like 2 or 3 years at that point. So we were loving it. We were so happy going into 2021, and 2021 was amazing. It was our best year since 2011, Tyler Wilson, I want to say, and we went 9-4. Had some really good SEC wins in that stretch, and beat Texas that year. I'll never forget that. But since then, we had KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders just not pan out well in 2022. We went 6-6, and we just weren't consistent at all. Most inconsistent team you can think of. That's how we were in 2022. Last year, we start off 2-0. We lose a heartbreaker to BYU at home, a game you should not lose as an SEC team. They beat us by 7. We go on to lose the next 5, I think it was. So we were 2-6 at that point. And I was actually at that Mississippi State game, the atrocious 7-3 game. It wasn't even football out there on the field, just horrible. And we finished 4-8 on the season. We thought Sam Pittman was done then, or I did. I really did. I thought he was over with. As much as I hated to see it, I knew it probably had to happen. But then we get some life back in the program. We hire Bobby Petrino, a guy that could soon to be our head coach again for his second stint, his first time being at Arkansas since 2011. We have some excitement in the program right now. And quarterback Talon Green, the transfer from Boise State, looked awesome in the spring game. I know it's a spring game, but he did look awesome. So some bright things. Sam Pittman, we will have to get to a bowl game for him to keep his job, in my opinion. Just edging out Sam Pittman at the 12 spot. You could go either way, but I have Shane Beamer here from South Carolina. Going into his 4th year at South Carolina, had a really 2 pretty good years. I mean, his first year, he leads them to 7 wins in a bowl game, and a lot of excitement around the program. The next year, up and down, consistency, but then the last 2 games of the season, man, they beat the number 5 team, Tennessee, at that point. And then the next week they end Clemson's hopes at a playoff. So 2 back-to-back huge wins, 2 great performances by Spencer Rattler. And the program had so much excitement going into 2023, but really just had a tough schedule. A lot of injuries. Juice Wells goes down. They had a horrible, horrible offensive line, one of the worst in the country. And they had a really tough schedule, like I said. They played North Carolina to start the season, Georgia in week 3, and they put up a valiant effort against Georgia. They finished the season 5-7, and Shane Beamer has a tough year ahead of him in 2024. It was just announced that Lenora Sellers, the kid with the goggles, that's what he will be probably known for in 2024, is the starting quarterback, and I have a lot of faith in him, man. He's got in some moments and looked really good. But Shane Beamer, not on the hot seat or anything. He does have a lot to prove in 2024. At number 11, I have Brent Venables, new SEC head coach, his 3rd year at Oklahoma. In his first year, they went 6-6. They lose the bowl game. But it was a year full of roster turnover, roster management, player management. And it was all because Lincoln Riley, the head coach at Oklahoma at that time, left for the USC job. And he took Caleb Williams and a bunch of other really good players with him. And Brent Venables had to manage that. And to me, he did a respectable job at it, 6-6. This past year, they go 10-3. A huge jump, and it really lets you know the talent behind Venables and how good of a head coach he can be. Started off so hot last year. They beat Texas in the Red River Shootout. They ended up dropping a tough game at Kansas. And then the next week in the Bedlam rivalry to Oklahoma State, the last time they played them for the foreseeable future. But a lot of excitement for Oklahoma going into 2024, the Jackson Arnold era. They still have Nick Anderson at wide receiver. They have Stutzman coming back at linebacker. And they just got a big transfer in Dominic Williams from TCU. Really good defensive lineman. So a lot of excitement going into 2024 for Oklahoma. At number 10, just edging out Brent Venables, I have Mark Stoops at Kentucky. And this is his 11th year at Kentucky. And it took a while to get going for him. I mean, it didn't get a winning season or a 500 season until his 4th year there. 2-10, 5-7, 5-7. Had rattled off a couple of 10-win seasons. And that's really an amazing thing to do at Kentucky. Last season, there was so many rumors, and we thought it was like reported. We thought it was official that he was going to take the A&M job. But that did not happen. They end up hiring Mike Elko, who you'll see a little bit above on this list. When that happened, he came out with a report saying that he turned it down. Just a really funny situation in Lexington. Kentucky is a hard job. I mean, all their money is in basketball for the most part, but they're starting to get some good players. I mean, Brock Vandegrift, the quarterback from Georgia, is coming over. He should be the starter. They just got the Rutgers quarterback today, Gavin Wimsatt, I think is how you pronounce his name, and he should be the backup. Last year was not really how they wanted it to go. They went 7-6. But as far as like excitement as a Kentucky fan, I don't know if I'd have it besides Brock Vandegrift and Deion Walker on the defensive side. And number 9, Mike Elko, new Texas A&M head coach, new SEC coach. He has been in the SEC before, though, as a defensive coordinator for the Texas A&M Aggies. Pretty cool story right there. He brings a lot of momentum to Texas A&M. They are as Josh Pate says, a sleeping giant in college football, and I fully believe that. I mean, they have the resources. It's one of the best jobs in the country. When Jimbo left and they paid him all that buyout money, it was getting talked about like the number one job in America, and there's an argument for that. But Mike Elko comes from Duke, and where he just been a head coach for 2 years. This will be his third year coaching in 2024, and 2 really good seasons at Duke. I mean, his first year 9-4. Last year dealt with a ton of injuries. I mean, their starting quarterback Riley Leonard dealt with so many injuries, an ankle injury, a foot injury, and still got him to 7 wins. So pretty good thing for Mike Elko there. He's a defensive first guy, and Texas A&M has a lot of pieces, especially on the defensive side. But for quarterback Connor Wigman, they did lose some pieces in the transfer portal, but I am really excited for this era of Texas A&M, and I'm ready for all the recruitment and excitement and hype to actually mean something, and I think it will with Mike Elko. At number 8, I have Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, and you talk about a situation where 1 year can change your whole outlook or perception or confidence on a head coach. It was last year for Eli Drinkwitz. I mean, 11 wins for them, 11-2, only losing to 2 really good teams, LSU and Georgia, in a really close game in both of them. But 1 year just changed his whole outlook to the rest of the country, man. Before this, in 2020, 5-5. 2021, 6-6 before losing the bowl game. 2022, 6-6 before losing the bowl game. And then last year, 11-2, beating Ohio State. Before that, his coaching experience was at Appalachian State, where he went 12-1, and that was good enough to get him the Missouri job. But Missouri, man, they have some excitement going. I mean, they have the best receiver in America coming back for 2024 in Luther Burden. Brady Cook was a star last year. We'll hope to keep that going. And the recruitment laws in the state of Missouri, where they, I believe they earn more NIL money or a bigger scholarship if they stay in the state of Missouri. That's genius. That's genius. Why doesn't every state do that? But it is paying off in dividends for Missouri right now, and they have so much to look for in 2024. I mean, they could be a top 10 ranked team, and probably should be. At number 7, I have Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze is at Auburn. His first year there was last year, and they went 6-7 and lost in the bowl game. But man, you can say with that roster, maybe they shouldn't have even made a bowl game. But they played some tough teams, Alabama and Georgia, and probably should have beat them both. Definitely should have beat Alabama, but they didn't. Finished 6-7. There's a lot of excitement going into 2024 for Auburn. They could be a real sleeper going into 2024. Not like to win the SEC championship or anything. I don't believe they're that talented, but I think they can knock off some really good SEC teams. And they have so many opportunities to do so with a really tough schedule. Hugh Freeze comes from Arkansas State, which is an hour away from here. He started off there, won 10 games, went to Ole Miss, had a couple of seasons where he won 9 games and then 10 games. Had a couple of seasons where he beat Nick Saban twice in a row. But then on those same years, he would lose to like a head-scratching team like Memphis. I remember them losing to Memphis. So he gets fired from Ole Miss for some off-the-field issues and goes to Liberty, where he stays there for 4 years and wins 8+ games every year at Liberty and turns himself into a real hot commodity as far as SEC athlete directors wanted him and everything. And he gets the Auburn job. Have a really good wide receiver in Cam Coleman coming up, and he'll do numbers this year in the SEC as a true freshman. But the next 2 or 3 years with him should be amazing to watch. At number 6, I have Josh Heupel at Tennessee. formerly at UCF during a little bit past their glory days. He comes over to Tennessee and in 2021 and has to deal with all the recruiting violations and scandals that the previous staff left for him to deal with, and he did a pretty respectable job at it. But the year after that, they have Hendon Hooker, they have Jalen Hyatt, and they get the #1 ranked team for a few weeks. I mean, they lost to Georgia, they lost to South Carolina at the end of the season. They go 10-2, and they won the bowl game against Clemson. So they finish 11-2. Just a heck of a year by Tennessee. They beat Alabama that year. That's what everybody will remember for the next 10 or 15 years, that game. And last year, struggled up and down with Joe Milton at quarterback. His arm was great, but the accuracy and the mid-range throws are really tough for him. Now it is the Nico era, and this offense should be elite. They also have could be the #1 pick in James Pierce Jr. on the edge on defense. So should be a really fun season in Knoxville, and they have high hopes for 2024. At number 5, I have Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, and man, Lane Kiffin has had a career. So many different schools. I mean, his first coaching job was at Tennessee. They went 7-6. He then takes the USC job for 2 or 3 years, and it seemed like every year he was there, that team was so overhyped and kind of just fell flat. From there, he goes to Alabama. Something I really respect him for is when he left USC to be the offensive coordinator at Alabama and just grow under Nick Saban, and he did. He definitely did. Got the Florida Atlantic job after that, excelled there, did so good there, then got the Ole Miss job, and now he's had 2 seasons of 10 wins. 10-plus wins. And next season, man, they are all in on 2024. Their transfer portal class is unreal. They did lose Quinshon Judkins, but they have made up for it in other areas. And Jackson Dart is back. Their receiving core is one of the best in America. At number 4, I have Steve Sarkisian, the new SEC head coach from Texas. And another coach that studied behind Nick Saban and really helped him grow. He had the Washington job really early in his career and wasn't the best for him. Had a couple of good seasons, but came to Alabama behind Nick Saban, and it made him kind of the coach he is today, in my opinion. Texas after that, and didn't start off great. Like at Washington, it started off 5-7, 7-5. People wanted a lot faster results, especially at a school like Texas. And then last year happens. They go to the playoff. They only lose 1 game, which was a heartbreaker and probably shouldn't have lost that game. He broke through. Steve Sarkisian broke through. And just like Ole Miss, Texas is loaded for 2024. They are all in for 2024 with Quinn Ewers at quarterback. At number 3, I have Brian Kelly. Might get some disagreements here, and that's okay. I fully expect it. And talk about a coaching career, man. Started off at Central Michigan, had some really good seasons, a 9-win season there. Went to Cincinnati and excelled there, a couple of 10-plus win seasons there. And then went to Notre Dame, where he spent the next 12 or 13 years and led them to a couple of national championship appearances and playoff appearances. It seems like it gets discredited because it was at Notre Dame, which is a very weird thing. They don't play anybody, apparently, stuff like that. But, I mean, now they do play people. Notre Dame has a really tough schedule and really doesn't get talked about a whole lot to me. But Brian Kelly takes the LSU job in a really weird offseason where he had a Cajun voice, was dancing with recruits, but whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes. His first year, they win the SEC West, which is one of the hardest divisions in America, obviously. They beat Alabama his first year, and they lose in the SEC championship, but still, man, a 9 or 10-plus win season there his first year is crazy. It really is, even at LSU. And last year, they had the amazing Jaden Daniels season, the Malik Neighbors season, the Brian Thomas wide receiver group, just insane. But the defense, he could not get a hold of the defense, and the defense failed them. If an average defense is out there, that team is in the playoff most likely, possibly could win the whole thing. But could never get the defense straightened out. This offseason, he hired Missouri's whole defensive staff. It seems like Blake Baker is the new defensive coordinator, replaces Matt House. And LSU should have really high hopes for 2024 and the future, in my opinion. Number 2, another new SEC head coach. And I feel like I'm jumping the gun here, but maybe I am. And then maybe I'm predicting that he will prove me right in the next 3 or 4 years, so I won't be looking stupid. But that is Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. He's hired this offseason. He replaces the head coach vacancy left by Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach of all time. No argument whatsoever. And, man, this guy has only been coaching for 4 years. He's only been the head coach of a college football team for 4 years. 2 years at Fresno State where they were really good, and then 2 years at Washington where he led them to a national championship 6 months ago. And it's just great. They didn't win the national championship, but it really does not matter. Taking a program like Washington to the national championship is just, it's awesome. He is so good with quarterbacks. Jake Hayner, Michael Penix Jr., and now he gets Jalen Milroe to work with, and I think it's going to be awesome. Obviously, Alabama is loaded, has a lot of pressure on him, even in the first year. Alabama fans are crazy. I don't really know what they expect, but I expect Alabama to be an SEC contender and a playoff contender his first year. But at number 1, and there's absolutely no argument here, no discussion, it is Kirby Smart by and large for the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, they are 42-1 the past 3 years for Georgia. They lost once to Alabama in 2021 before he won the national championship against Alabama just a few weeks later. They go undefeated in 2022, kill TCU 65-7 in the national championship game, and last year they lose a heartbreaker in the SEC championship game to Nick Saban in their final matchup, Kirby Smart versus Nick Saban, a rivalry I don't feel like we got enough of, but I will miss it. But Kirby Smart, man, 2 national championships the last 3 years, and they are looking for another one in 2024. That is the goal every year for this team from now on until it's not. They are still pissed off from last season because of that loss and knocked them out of the playoffs, where they were probably still a top 4 team, but that's another argument. Kirby Smart has been in Georgia, I want to say, this is his 9th year. And it started off not rough, but I mean, it started off, he lost to Vanderbilt in his first year. Can you imagine Georgia losing to Vanderbilt now? Just would be insane. But he's another guy, defensive coordinator under Nick Saban, and it just taught him so much. And I feel like they have a really good relationship off the field, and that'll help him as a coach too. I know it's new times in college football, but having Nick Saban by your side will always help you, I feel like. But Kirby Smart is the number 1 college football coach in America to me and has the potential to be the number 2 college football coach of all time behind Nick Saban. But we will see. It's only 2 national championships so far, and I expect him to get 2 or 3 more. But thank you all for watching, guys. Again, follow us on TikTok at 3&out CFB, and follow us on Twitter at 3&out_CFB. We post college football stuff daily on both platforms, and it's really heating up going into 2024 season. So thank you all for watching.